Hey guys, what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is some topics and some discussion around emotional intelligence and controlling our emotions as men, and some communication expression, just the importance of an overall balance and understanding of our emotions and how this should be handled. We all, as humans, we're all emotional creatures, and it's important that we understand how to really manage when things either flare up or when they affect us, how we express how they make us feel, and just how to navigate those waters. I think, if you're anything like me as a man, for the longest time, I felt like the message being communicated to me was that I didn't I shouldn't express them, and that I should kind of have a stoic approach to things where I didn't have any kind of really look on my face, or just kind of look like I was unflappable. And I think that there are certain things about that are good, but I'm also learning too that the the importance of the way that we express it and how we're reacting to it. So, our processing methods, or our processing mechanisms, rather, how we are taking it in, how we react to it. That's really more of really what I want to talk about today. And, the dangers of like kind of repressing a lot of that stuff. So if you're having emotional flare-ups, or if you're getting worked up about something and you're not really dealing with it, you're not talking about it, and you're not really confronting it, what kinds of consequences that can come from that. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And of course, I'm going to love to hear some of the feedback and comments that you guys have. But so, we're in an age now where communication and connection is so easy and readily available because of our phones. We're all connected, and that's great. The downside is, I think, that we've lost a little bit of the art of our ability to communicate with each other. And a prime example of that is if you see a family at dinner, or a couple at dinner, or whatever, just together, and they're not even communicating to each other. They're just on their phones, like, yeah, they're just buried into it. And I'm guilty of it too. But enough of that has caused us to not really be in touch with the proper ways of communicating our needs, and communicating with each other, and certainly listening too, is an important part of that. So we all have an area in our brains that really controls the meanings that we have on things, and it's the amygdala. I'm no brain expert, but it's really where we process a lot of our emotions. In my understanding, it's all of our emotions. It's how we process them. It's the area of our brain that where we fall in love, where we are really moved by a song, or just that real centerpiece of the brain. It's not very big; it's pretty tiny actually, but it's a really powerful place. And we all have it as humans. The difference between us and other mammals is that we have an area of our brain that allows us to understand that it's not the reptilian sense where, like, for example, we don't eat our babies. That's a little forward, but you might see an animal do that if they don't have any food, or if they're trying to feed other young. Like, you could see some cannibalistic shit. We don't always, we're not wired that way. And I know that there are some real weirdos out there that go about that. We're not going to cover that here, but we just have that area of our brain where other mammals don't, right? So taking care of that and really understanding that part of our anatomy is important. So, when we have things in our life, whether they're traumatic events or they are happy events, those are all stored in our brains, and we take those with us and we apply them and we kind of carry them with us throughout our lives. Whether we are aware of it or not, they do affect how we view the world and kind of the paradigms that we have around, the social situations that are going on, or the way that we view the world, the way that we view our surroundings. Those are all a side effect or a result of the collection of memories and the things that are really stored there and the things that have really affected our brains. So, if the way that you deal with emotions is to not say anything, to kind of repress it and to keep it stoic, if you're anything like I am, those dogs have to get out, and not really expressing that and communicating that is really dangerous, because whether you're aware of it or not, if you're not really communicating and you're just kind of keep pushing it down, and you have this look about you, or you kind of go about life like nothing affects me, I'm unflappable, that stuff will tend to creep out in the form of an addiction or, some sort of, negative experience. Typically addiction's the one, or a crutch or some kind of fix, that stuff has to get out, and you gotta work through it. So, how do you go about really controlling that area of your life in a way that makes you more stable, more secure, more centered as a man? Controlling our emotions is so critical. And really, if you look at the dynamic between men and women, women are emotional creatures. That's how they're wired. Men are, very linear and logical thinkers. We're kind of just, goal oriented. We can think about one thing at a time, and we're very good at connecting those dots, that sequence. I have a goal, so I'm going to go after it. Women are very, they're in touch with the present moment and how things look and feel and smell. So, when we're dealing with an emotional creature like a woman, it's important that if our emotions are in check, that's a security that they feel when they're around us. So, if you think about the proper way to handle this, if your emotions are in good health, you're typically going to be around people who have a similar emotional health, because it's going to drain your energy if you're around people who are like emotional vampires. They just drain you. It's going to seem like crazy dramatic. You're not going to want to be around it. You just don't vibe with them very well. So if you're taking really good care of your own emotional health, typically the people that you're going to be attracted to or be around or want to be around are the people who do that for themselves. So, understanding how to communicate those things, especially with women, most of the time when you're trying to, let's say, for example, that you and a woman came home from work. A guy is just going to kind of sum up the day like, yeah, it was great. Went to a couple meetings, did this task, went to lunch, had a few more meetings, came home. Like, just very kind of straight and to the point. A woman is going to start and just kind of go off. Like, it's going to be how she woke up, what she wore, if she, felt like the first meeting was in the right location. I mean, these are all things that are like so far-fetched to a guy, but to a woman, it's all about just, how everything unfolds, and it's so much more complex. And if you both get home from a long day of work, and you ask her, how was your day at work, you're going to get all that. And most of the time, guys, because we're fixers, we're very point A, point B, we want to try and fix stuff. We're trying to bring the end of that conversation or that point, that end of the day or that description to a point. or she's going to go da 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 da, and so then you're going to reiterate it back, and you're going to say, okay, so when that all happened, da 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 da, then you did this. So it's trying to resolve it to a finite point, and I think it's really difficult for a guy to really understand, first of all, that thought pattern. Second of all, like, because we're just fixers, like we don't want to see our girl in pain, so it's like, we're trying to fix stuff, and it's very common that women always say, hey, we're frustrated because we don't feel like men really listen. And I think that all you really need to do as a man is to really hold the space and not let any of the things that she's going off about. Because if she's going through her day and maybe the goodbye that you gave her in the morning wasn't, something that she felt good about, that could have affected her day and set her off on the wrong. You got to hold the space and kind of take a few barbs maybe, and not get like emotionally hijacked by some of the comments. She might throw a barb, and you have to hold it down. You're not gonna back down, but you have to hold the space for her to really feel like that you're present. Again, women are all about the present moment and what's going on in the moment. So if you're in control and you're present and you're holding space for her and you're not bringing it to a point, you're giving her an area for her to kind of just feel it out for herself. Because I don't really think they don't really understand how to fix their own problems. For them, it's the more verbalizing it. It's more just talking it out. If you've ever seen a group of women at dinner, 5, 10 of them, they're all talking at once. And, as a guy, you're looking over that like, dude, how's anybody getting any shit out of that? Like that looks like chaos to a guy. And if you look at a table of guys, you just have like kind of 5, 10 guys there, one person's talking or people are talking individually. So pay attention to that. That's very important when you understand what she thinks like emotionally and how you can handle that as a man for her. You're not trying to fix it. You're just trying to hold space. She just needs to really talk it out and to get through it. And if you stay calm and don't try to like get to a resolved point, then I think you're going to have a lot better luck. Sometimes it's kind of a time commitment, but it is important. And say some of it back to her. Kind of reiterate it. The next point here is really the expression. So as I said at the top, my approach for a long time was to just be stoic, to just have that like stern look on my face, like I'm unflappable, you can't do anything with me. And the truth is that like, there's a lot of times where the shit was like, I just wasn't dealing with it. So somebody would say something or a situation would happen at work and I would just try to bury it in and not, deal with it. And I later learned that those things have a way of kind of eking out. And if I've repressed it for a long time, typically it comes out in like a waterfall. So like if it's with the person who's throwing a couple barbs at you, or if it's something at work, or the person's not even related to why you're upset, the cup is going to overflow at some point, and you're just going to have a boil over, and shit's going to hit the fan, and that it's not the right way to go about it. First of all, when you calm down, you're going to realize that it was a mistake and you probably should have dealt with it more in the moment. So the expression that at least I'm learning now is to be able to verbalize it succinctly. So to be able to be very clear and to deliver what's going on with you, but to remain very calm about it. It's okay for you to have a backbone and say, I don't like how you're talking to me, and I don't really appreciate this. you're not being combative, you're not yelling, you're not screaming, but it's holding firm and having a backbone and standards and boundaries for yourself that is very important. And again, you're doing it at the same kind of level of energy or the same kind of presence and body language and physiology as you would be if you were like okay or happy. You want to be able to like remain very consistent. Whether if you watch people, if you're a football fan, so I live here in Nebraska. Tom Osborne is considered behind Warren Buffett like a king, and his big thing was he was very big on psychology. And if you looked at when the team scored a touchdown or when he was getting after one of his guys or if they had a penalty, if they just won the super a big bowl game, whatever it is, Tom Osborne was like always right here. And he's considered like the king, one of the kings of Nebraska. It's because he was always emotionally in check. I watched a documentary last week about a troubled player that we had back in the 90s, and it was Amon Green. And he was having an interview with a reporter, and a reporter asked some questions. At the time, Tom Osborne was really dealing with a lot of scrutiny from the public about how he was going about his handlings with Amon Green Lawrence Phillips is who it was about. But he was really taking a lot of heat from the press. And when a member of the media had asked him a question about it, he confronted it. He said, I don't really appreciate the question. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the team. But what really stood out to me was the fact that, like, if he was talking about what they were doing on defense, if he was talking about what they were doing and excited for the upcoming season, or if he was telling that reporter to fuck off, pretty much, he was always the same Tom Osborne. And there's a couple of other people who were the same way. I think Bill Belichick from the New England Patriots, he's the same way. If they win the Super Bowl, if they just get their ass kicked, or if they had a flagrant penalty, Bill Belichick is always the same. He's a bit more stoic, but again, it stands out to me when people are able to kind of handle that and remain very calm, very present, and very, very open about, hey, I don't like the way that you're speaking to me. I don't appreciate the question. It's okay to do that. It's okay to express that. And you alleviate the risk of having that come out later on because you didn't deal with it in the moment. So know that it's okay to express that, to be clear, to be succinct, to be open, and you're doing it for yourself. You're creating a sense of boundaries, and I think that goes a long way with people, and most of all for yourself. So, the last part is really the dangers of repression. So, if you have relationships or if you have areas of your life where you're not dealing with that stuff, if you feel like people are taking advantage of your boundaries, if you feel like you're in a relationship where you're not getting your needs met, if you're not saying anything about that, you really don't have anyone else or anything else to blame or really look to. It's really upon you to stand up for yourself. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, who else is gonna? I mean, you really have your own self to blame. And I did the same thing for a long time. I wouldn't say anything, and pretty soon, 2-3 months, I'm like having a meltdown, and with my girl, and the issue was really that I just didn't deal with it, and I carried it, and it's a burden that you have to get rid of. You can't take that stuff with you. With women, somebody's got to hold down the emotional fort. If you're both like emotional basket cases, can you imagine what that kind of dynamic is like? First of all, for her, it's not something where she's going to feel safe. Their biggest thing is like, I need to feel safe. I need to feel secure. And most guys tend to think, oh, that's, if I get in the gym and I can lift a lot. That's part of it. But she needs to be able to feel like if shit's running off the tracks, or if, somebody needs to hold the fort down, hold the emotional fort down, that you're going to be able to do that. That's really what she's looking for, and what she really needs. And as men, it's important for us to deal with the emotions that we have as they come up, and to be able to handle them in a healthy way, that obviously improves our own emotional health, improves our ability to communicate and understand and listen to those around us and those that are important to us, and also how to express that, and how we're able to hold that space for women to be able to express the things that are going on with them in a way that makes them feel safe and secure. But those are a couple of things that that I wanted to call out in terms of like emotional intelligence and just communication for guys handling our emotions. So please add comments, share your feedback. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What I also like to do here is my email for this channel is actually attached to the channel. So it's themancoreproject@gmail.com. And I'd like to be able to kind of open this community up. So if you have questions or a challenge that you're going through, you're welcome to send me an email, 2 to 3 paragraphs, and I'll fire back some feedback or my comments, or we can discuss it in the like an upcoming video. And I won't mention anything. You'll be anonymous. I'll just let you know that it's going to be something that we're going to cover. But I want to put myself out there and really offer what kind of advice and help and topics that you guys want to discuss. I'm by no means a licensed life coach or a wellness coach or anything like that, but we really want to encourage the communal aspect and bring people in that can offer a lot of value or gain a lot of value from this. So please share the video or the channel with anyone you feel would be interested if this is something that you find value in. And again, the email you can send your inquiries to is themancore@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.